all began when I decided to escape the hectic urban life and find solace in a picturesque countryside retreat. The house I had chosen was an old, secluded cottage, perched at the edge of a sprawling, dense forest. The neighborhood was silent, not the kind of peaceful silence that brings comfort, but the sort that raises the hairs on the back of your neck. It was in this eerie serenity that I first encountered him, the creepy man outside my house. It all started with mere whispers, faint and elusive. Shadows darted between the gnarled trees, figures that danced at the edge of my vision. I initially dismissed these glimpses as products of my imagination, attributing them to my adjustment to the unfamiliar surroundings. But the more I brushed them off, the more persistent and unsettling they became. As days turned into weeks, the encounters grew more frequent. Every night, like an ominous clock, at the stroke of midnight, the soft, rhythmic tapping on my window would echo through the room. I would leap from my bed, my heart pounding, to investigate, only to find nothing but the vast, moonlit expanse of the forest beyond. The feeling of being watched was inescapable, a constant weight on my shoulders. It was more than just the casual gaze of a passerby. It was a penetrating, unnerving scrutiny that seemed to unravel my very essence. It was as if an unseen presence had cast a malevolent shadow over my home. The anxiety that gripped me was relentless, clawing at my sanity. One fateful night, as I lay in bed, bathed in the silvery glow of the moon, a bone-chilling cold seeped into the room. The temperature plummeted, and the air thickened with dread. I could sense his presence in the room, the creepy man, a spectral figure hidden within the shroud of darkness, standing at the foot of my bed. He extended a gnarled hand, offering me a note. I accepted it with trembling fingers. The message, written in a script that seemed to squirm and writhe on the page, spoke of ancient curses, dark secrets, and an impending malevolence that was about to consume my life. It was more than an eerie message. It was a grim warning, as if the creepy man sought understanding, an unwilling messenger of the horrors that had ensnared him. Fueled by a mixture of fear and curiosity, I delved into the history of the house and the land it occupied. I scoured dusty archives, consulted ancient texts, and sought the counsel of locals who held knowledge of the area's shadowy past. As I pieced together the puzzle, a harrowing tale emerged. The previous owner had been a recluse, a man who had become obsessed with the occult and the forbidden. He had performed dark rituals, evoking eldritch beings and making ghastly sacrifices in his quest for unimaginable power. The curse that plagued the property was the gruesome aftermath of his unholy pursuits. My research led to the revelation that the curse was not merely a malevolent force, but the tortured soul of the reclusive man himself. He had become a vessel for ancient, otherworldly entities that defied human understanding. The creepy man, a wretched specter, was the lingering manifestation of that tortured soul, eternally trapped between the realms of the living and the dead. His existence was an embodiment of otherworldly torment, a cruel reminder that the house was a nexus of dark forces that defied the natural order. Armed with newfound knowledge, I understood that a ritual was the only means to sever the unholy bond that held the creepy man to the house. It was a ritual that defied the laws of nature, a ceremony that beckoned malevolent forces from the darkest corners of the netherworld. But I was resolute in my determination to confront the malevolent entity that had tormented me for so long. Armed with incantations and instructions culled from ancient texts, I prepared for a night that would challenge my courage and test the limits of my sanity. The night of the ritual arrived, and as I stood in the very spot where the creepy man had first appeared, the air grew heavy with a foreboding presence. The forest seemed to awaken with sinister shadows, and the wind howled like a tormented spirit. The moon, a blood-red orb, cast an eerie pallor over the landscape. As I began to chant the incantations, the very ground beneath me seemed to tremble, and the room was engulfed in an unnatural darkness. Shadows swirled and danced, and the forest seemed to sigh with unearthly secrets, as if it sought to deter me from the path I had chosen. With each incantation, the creepy man's presence drew nearer, the tapping on the window growing more frenzied. The room pulsed with a sinister energy, and the tension in the air became suffocating, as if the house itself were holding its breath. And then, as I continued to chant, the shadows in the room converged, coalescing into a figure that was both human and ethereal. The creepy man manifested before me, his visage twisted into a sadistic grin. His eyes gleamed with otherworldly malevolence, and the room seemed to pulsate with his dark energy. The battle between the living and the supernatural had begun, a confrontation that transcended the boundaries of reality and the spectral realm. The creepy man, now fully corporeal, began to reveal the depths of his torment, the horrors he had witnessed and endured. As the confrontation raged on, the creepy man divulged the grotesque nature of his suffering. He recounted witnessing dark rituals, the summoning of eldritch beings, and the grotesque sacrifices made in the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. His story was a descent into madness, a narrative filled with nightmarish visions and brutal tortures. It was clear that the creepy man himself had been a victim of these horrors, transformed into a malevolent spirit that was both a prisoner and a weapon of the curse. The horrors he described transcended the boundaries of sanity, and I could feel my own grasp on reality slipping as I listened to his nightmarish account. The room seemed to close in around us, and I was enveloped in the suffocating grip of his malevolence. The battle between the living and the supernatural reached a crescendo, a cataclysmic clash of wills that seemed to reverberate through the very foundations of the house. The wind howled like a choir of tormented souls, and the tapping on the window reached a frenetic crescendo. And then, as the first feeble light of dawn broke over the horizon, a final,